Hello, everyone. For those that don't know me, my name is Jack Aaron, and I'm a business psychologist who specializes in the assessment of personality type. Today, I'm honored to be interviewing Dan Tubb, a specialist in technology venture capital who's most well known for being a regular on the Lotus Eaters, an online political talk show known as much for its irreverent style as for its undeniable Britishness. Dan is known for presenting his own segment on the show, Brokenomics. I believe he is currently in the studio for Brokenomics. And yes, this is where he combines his depth of insight into the failing economic systems that grip our country with an on the edge sense of humour that is tantalising to watch. If you'd like to skip straight to the analysis, just go to 36 seconds past the hour. So, without further ado, Dan, welcome to Public Personalities. It's a delight to have you on here. How are you
Well,
today?
thank you very much for having me, and it's good to see you, Jack. I'm looking very much forward to my psychological evaluation. I've been revising for it all morning. So apparently, if you ask me what my greatest flaw is, I'm supposed to say something like I'm a perfectionist because it kind of turns it around, you see, and it turns. And also, when you start showing me the ink blots, no matter how much it looks like a hooker in a pool of blood, do not say that. Like say it looks like a butterfly or something. So
Yep.
yes, I have revised and I'm ready, and I think I can get through this one well under the radar.
I'm sure you'll be able to hide the very darkest and most psychopathological parts of yourself for this interview.
Well, that is
I'm
the goal,
sure.
isn't it? Yeah, it is.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. So, Dan, I did a little bit of research, and it sounds to me as though before you went into venture capital, you were actually in the world of politics. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Oh yes. I got interested in politics in the 1997 general election. Not a great place to start that one.
Nope.
Because I thought, oh yeah, this Tony Blair chap. Everybody seems to like him. But I'm a bit suspicious of him. I was a bit like that detective of Dexter, the only one who would see is a
Mm-mm.
psychopath. And I was looking at this Tony Blair chap, and I was thinking, no, I don't like the cut of your jib, sir. So I got involved in politics then, and so for the first 20 years, he was basically just losing everything all the time. That sort of culminated in just as I was finishing university, Michael Portillo was having his leadership campaign to take over the party. And I thought, okay, fine. And I kind of been dragged along and getting more and more involved in that sort of thing all along. And so I ended up on his campaign team, operating out of a little office in Westminster
Yep.
on Barton Street. And I guess if it had gone a different way, I would have just ended up being a politico my whole life.
Mhm.
And I probably would have, probably be a Tory MP. Well, I'd be an ex-Tory MP now. I mean, I would have almost certainly lost my seat. But anyway, that didn't happen. He didn't win that leadership election, and so I thought, oh right, well, what am I going to do now? So I went into finance. Funnily enough, I did actually meet
Hmm.
Rupert. I'm pretty sure it was Rupert Lowe that I met at that time,
Yeah.
and he offered me a job at Southampton Football Club, not as a player or anything, but
Yeah.
on the business side. And I just said, well, I'm very sorry, but I think football's very very silly. In retrospect, it could have been a more interesting career than moving spreadsheets up and down, but no, I didn't end up going into politics in the end.
Why did you initially want to get into that fray? Was it simply because of Tony Blair and having a funny smell about him, or anything
Um,
else which motivated you?
well, I was listening to a Michael Malice interview on the way up in the car this morning, and he was making the argument that psychopaths are just drawn to politics.
Hmm.
So I assume it's that, but I'm not sure. But I
Why
guess that's why I'm here.
why do you think that you have psychopathic traits?
Well, because I'm drawn to politics and finance.
Hmm.
And I mean, isn't that just the most enormous red flag for psychopathy? I mean, it kind of is, isn't it? I mean,
Well,
I
it
mean,
depends
yes.
why. It depends why. What?
Um, Money and power, I think.
Money and power.
Yes, yes, they sound good to me.
Would you then say that? your move towards finance to finance after politics, was that a sense then of, well, if I can't have political power, I can have financial power?
I don't know if I was thinking about it in that terms. I think it was all you know, not the brain. It was not in the prefrontal cortex or anything. It was just, you know, if I'm going to do something, what is it? And I just kind of found myself being drawn to that, or having the right conversations that ended up getting me invited to the right interviews or something. I'm not
Mm.
exactly sure. It was all base programming at that level. But I just thought, well, you come out of university and your goal is to get a job, become economically independent. And I just thought,
Mm.
well, rather than buggering around with widgets or something, why don't I just work directly with the money? I mean, that just seems a lot easier to me. So I did that. Yes.
So you said you came out of university. What did you do at university and why?
I did economics and politics, and
Mm.
there's a bit of philosophy in there. And I don't know. I just thought it might be interesting. I was completely disappointed by the course. I envisaged going in and having a debate about why Hong Kong was more successful, per capita than a Scandinavian country, a high tax, high welfare country like that, or that kind of thing. And it wasn't any of that. It was just getting lectured on Marxism every
Yep.
day.
Yep.
So I actually got a very bad degree. It was like a second or something, and in fact, I was heading for a third. And then when it came to the final 6 months, I realised that and started getting sort of top firsts in everything, and that was enough to drag me back into a second. But no, I always just did whatever seems the most interesting thing to do at the time.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
that sounds like that. From the look on your face, that's another red flag you've spotted.
No, not a red flag. It's
Right.
just an illuminating flag. It tells
Uh,
me, okay,
well, what colour is it illuminating?
well, it's illuminating, I would
Right.
say green.
Oh,
Green, but yes, it's a good thing because it's telling me we're on signal right now. We found
okay.
what, because if someone tells you, oh, I was interested in the power. I was interested in
Hmm.
the prestige and the ability to influence things for its own sake. But then you say, well, I went into a degree which, had a mixture of politics, a mixture of economics, a bit of philosophy, and you're looking forward to having debates on things. That tells me it's a different motivation than power. And then you put the title on it. You do what is
Hmm.
interesting to you
Yes,
at the
I'll tell you my philosophy on achieving power. It's kind of because I didn't end up going down that route, but I kind of feel like me or somebody like me should to stop people who are worse from getting it.
Mm,
And then once you've got it, don't do anything with it. Just leave everybody alone if possible,
yes.
because otherwise dark forces will surmount that hill.
Mm. So for you, it's not about controlling. It's not about being in power so much as preventing other people from wielding power against you and taking away your own freedoms.
Yes, I think that's fair, but as long as that is what is actually happening under the in the base code,
Mm.
and not just the story that I tell myself to mask my own psychopathy. I don't. I'm not really sure.
Well, that's why I find it very interesting that you chose a degree which, at least in terms of your hopes, was one of intellectual exploration. You were
Hmm.
hoping to be talking about, the more interesting and slightly wonkish aspects of the Hongkongese economy, and instead it
Yes.
became a brainwashing exercise in Marxism.
Yes. 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 Very disappointing. I'm always drawn to. I love having good arguments,
Yes.
but but it's very difficult to get them. That my demand for arguments is much higher than the supply of arguments, and being surrounded by normies my whole life, it's been very disappointing because you think that you're having a chat about something and you think, oh, hang on, there's a thread there. Oh, there could be a
Mm.
lovely argument there, and then nothing happens, or they just back away, or just say, oh, well, that's just my pint. And it's, oh, damn, and lost another one. That's why I quite like it here because you get to have some good arguments.
Why do you think that people back away from these arguments?
I think because they're normal. I think that's what normal people do. That they avoid confrontation. Whereas I've always quite liked a good bit of confrontation. I mean, I loved the COVID era
Yeah.
because I could stride around shops very clearly not wearing a mask. And then every so often somebody would confront you and you could tell them how bloody silly they are.
Hmm.
I enjoyed that. But no, generally I mean, people are like, they're just not built like that, are they? You know, most people are followers. They're sort of sheep. Whereas I kind of always want to be, you know, the guy who's not doing whatever the thing is. And I get why a population as a whole needs a certain number of people like that,
Mm.
just a fairly limited number of them, because they can go off and do crazy things. And most of them will end up being eaten by a bear or something. But some of them will discover new pastures, and then the
Yes.
sheep can follow up. So I just assume that I'm one of them.
Mhm.
Mm.
You're one of those who's going to go into chaos to bring back something of value for the rest of society.
Yes, and bring order to it,
Hmm.
hopefully.
Yeah,
Mm.
makes sense. So, what is it about a debate that you enjoy? When you see that thread, what
Mm.
is it about you that grabs your attention?
Because you might lose. There's a challenge there. It's a bit like why do you play a video game? You know, when you play a video game, why do you just not immediately put it on the easiest difficulty setting and enable cheats? Because it's all about that you might lose and then you feel something.
Mm. And it sounds to me there that a certain sense of daring is involved in a debate. The idea that
Well,
there's
it's
a
not fun
chance of
otherwise.
losing.
Yes,
Are you someone who has lost before?
the debate.
Yes.
Um, well, I suppose I must have done. I mean, these things. I mean, it's not quite like boxing where one of you ends up on the mat.
Yeah.
Normally,
Mm.
debate's gone a bit. It's all got a bit out of hand if it ends up like that with somebody knocked out. Um, so most of the time, it's a little bit inconclusive. But I mean, certainly, I've come away from things thinking, yeah, I could have handled that better, or I could have had a better answer there, or I need to think about it more. But you know, I've never been one of those exercise bug people. So you get some people who just feel motivated to get up in the morning, go for a 7 mile run, and and
Yeah.
they like
Yeah.
being on the sort of peak of that. I like being on the peak of being able to marshal an argument,
Yes.
and
Yes.
it feels a little bit uncomfortable. I feel like I'm going to be eaten by a bear if I'm not at the peak.
Mhm. Makes sense. Thank you. So, looking back at your choice of degree, it was the politics, it was the economics. Was it, could I say it was PPE?
I mean, it
Social-
wasn't actually that, but it was pretty close to that.
Close to that.
Yes.
And you're looking forward to having those sorts of debates. Why that particular field? Why not a different field? Why not say just philosophy?
Because it just seemed too abstract. Didn't connect enough.
Mm.
Um, and I kind of like the way Carl's done it, where he's been involved in the Hoy, you know, in the you know the fighting pit for a long time, and
Mm.
then pivots to philosophy. But when I was 17 making my choice about a degree, I didn't bloody know anything, and I kind of knew that,
Yep.
and so philosophical abstracts, it just didn't feel like it connected. It felt like I need to be much more visceral than that.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So outside of the purely intellectual, how are you at handling conflicts and confrontations?
Um, I I just never back away from them.
Mm.
So I suppose in that respect, quite bad. Um, you know, luckily I grew up in a fairly nice sort of town.
Mm.
But you know, when I was a young lad, and you know an orbit of guys in the town because it's a fairly small town, and you know if ever there was, I mean, I remember one time sort of squaring up to about 7 lads, which was completely ridiculous because there's absolutely no way to win that. But I just can't. I'm really not good at backing away. So when that comes to arguments with the missus, for example, I've had to learn over the years that if she says something, the key is not to listen to what she's just said and then be like a lawyer and start attacking the points
Yeah.
and start listing out. Okay, well, here's your assumptions that led into that, and then
Yeah.
here's why they're. You just ignore all of it, and you go on tone of voice, and you just say something, like, oh, because with women, it all comes down to insecurity, doesn't it? You have to basically just say, look, I love you, darling, and I'm going to be with you for the rest of my life. Stop worrying about whatever that thing that you're wittering about, and that normally does the trick. So I am learning over the years to avoid confrontations, which I think is the skill that naturally that I don't have a lot of.
Gotcha. And I guess in that sort of fight or flight moment, it's clear to me that the flight doesn't happen. It's the fight which comes out. Is that
never the flight is never triggered.
Not there.
It's worrying. Yes.
And is that fight moment something which you find thrilling, enjoyable, or do you sort of find yourself stuck there and not sure what to do?
I don't know. It's just the alternative has never occurred. Just not wired that way. And going back to my analogy about if this is a mechanism, if that is a characteristic that just crops up in a certain percentage of the population, because you're on the safe pastures, but there might be another safe pasture out there somewhere. If only you can have a few idiots who go off and do the thing. I fully accept that my genotype, whatever it is, would very likely have been eaten by a bear. But there is a small chance I would have become the king of a new pasture, and then I would have had to gone back and get some sheep.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it's all a bit of an anomaly, but when you're built that way, you just don't see an alternative. It just doesn't occur to you.
Yeah.
Playing along with the idiocies of the day, it just doesn't work. You can't do it.
Mm-hmm. What sorts of things about people tend to frustrate or irritate you?
Wasted potential. I see that a lot when people they just don't try. When I see people who could do something and they don't try, that always. I mean, it's not that I don't like them or disrespect them, but I can't properly respect them if they haven't tried. Trying and failing, absolutely fine. By all means, do that. But to not try it at all, and this is most people. Like, well, if you just try. In fact, I've got a psychological cornerstone you might be interested in.
Sure.
Of something that I think about almost every day. So I was maybe 8 or 9 years old, and we'd gone to this thing, this fair of whatever it is. I can't remember what it was. They had a Pepsi challenge, which I did a few times, and they had another thing. And the British Army, they had set up something off the back of a lorry. I mean, this was back in the days when they still did this sort of thing. They still had budget for it. And what it basically was a mini assault course. And it started with this wall that you had to climb. And I was a young lad, and I thought, oh well, I'll do this. And I started trying to climb this wall. And it quickly became apparent that I had absolutely no chance of getting up this wall. It just simply wasn't going to happen. It was impossible. I couldn't do it. And so I'm on the rope, and they attach a little rope to you before you do this. And I call out to the whatever he was, Corporal Smith or whoever who was overseeing it. I said, I can't do it. I need to be let off. And he wouldn't have it. Just simply refused. And he just shouted at me, "Yes, you can do it. Get bloody on with it, boy. Go on." And I knew that I couldn't. But it also became apparent that he was not going to let me off. He was just going to keep shouting at me, "Yes, you can do it. Do it." So I thought, oh, sod it, I'm going to have to do it, aren't I? And it turns out that I could do it. Now that was an interaction which, he would have forgotten that by lunchtime. I have thought about that almost every day for the rest of my life. I have been in the situation where I knew that I definitely couldn't do something, but actually I could when I tried it. And that has stuck with me ever since. That if you're faced with something that is clearly impossible, we'll just do it anyway.
Yeah.
And actually, sometimes you can. And I'm starting to realize that the difference between people who do things in life and the people who don't is all the people who don't is because they think to themselves, I can't do that. And the moment you think that, you're right. Because thinking that you can't do something is a guarantee that you won't do something.
Yes.
So just bloody do a thing. And then, it might not work, but you'd be surprised how often it does. Is that revealing at all?
Very. It shows how what has affected you is clear proof that by an active will to broaden your possibilities, you actually become more capable and you can actually accomplish more things. And that possibility lies in one's mindset to a certain degree. Not absolutely, but certainly to a greater degree than people often accept.
I was having a conversation about this with Neem Bhavardini, the academic agent. And we both kind of believe in, I think it's called manifest destiny or something, where if you just believe that you're going to do something, you actually do it. And it sounds like voodoo nonsense, but it is actually true. If you just believe, I am going to do this thing, and then somehow you just do it. And it's like the universe bends around you.
Yeah.
To make that thing happen. And it's always been that thing. It's like, I wanted to go into politics, so I did that and ended up getting to a fairly high level. I mean, it was mingling with, MPs and lords and in Westminster. Then I decided, okay, I want to do finance. I want to do that well. And then it's like I just have these mindset changes. No, I want to get out of London. I want to do something nicer. Want to make a bit of money investing, and it just happens. And then one day, I was in this sort of semi-retired situation and was getting a bit bored, and I was watching right-wing podcasts, and I thought, yes, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to be good at it.
Yeah.
And then 3 months later, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what's going to crop into my head next, but every time that I've suddenly decided, yes, I want to do that, the universe just bends around into shape. And it happens.
And it's funny there that once you highlight a certain opportunity in your head, you almost just know that you are capable of doing it, that your competence shapes up to match the moment.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
So I guess another question I had in regards to finance, what ideas did you find most interesting about finance, about going into money, going into numbers? What about that was the draw for you?
Well, on that, I mean, that was a massive failure. So that it turned out it was wrong. So my idea going in was that I wanted to work with small dynamic businesses.
Yeah.
And that I would go in there and I'd help them grow from small stages, to be much bigger, sell them on classic VC stuff. And actually, when I joined, you could do that. That still kind of existed. Britain we have today, that has basically died off. And it was that sense of, and it's been crushed as well.
Yeah.
So when I speak with VC characters who are still active in this game, I was speaking to one of them the other day, and he just said, "Yeah, we quit Britain because everything we invest in the UK fails, and it normally fails because of government action. They keep on putting up taxes, or they did COVID lockdowns, or they did something else." And actually, if I look at my own portfolio today, it's all just big American companies, really big companies, trillion-dollar companies, because that's where the opportunity is. But what originally drew me to was this idea that a small band, a team could get together and create something, and that's just getting harder and harder in this country today. to the
Yes.
point where you just can't do it.
We haven't learnt the lessons of Chinese history, where I was
Mm.
watching a bit of Rudyard Lynch the other day. It's fascinating just how the northern imperial China would periodically, after allowing sort of the South to sort of blossom in sort of proto-capitalism, would then crush it in order
Right.
to
Yes.
maintain its own stranglehold on the South.
Well,
And
I mean,
yeah,
incidentally, on
yeah,
China, what really turned it around for them is in the sort of early 80s, they started putting a lot. They started putting their lending, their money creation into small businesses,
mm,
and it was transformative. Whereas in
yeah,
this country, there has been no net new increase to small business lending since
mm,
2008. It all goes into either government or mortgages, and that's why
yes,
we have a boom in house prices and government, and there's no net new business creation.
yeah. It is the fluidity goes. It gets
Mm.
held in these states, held in the sort of fixed assets, and of course the
Mm.
government keeps on taking it up. And yeah,
Yes,
and there, I guess there may be the great
yes.
inheritance flow, but that I'm sure the government is very much willing
Mm.
to have on tap into their coffers. Hmm.
But yes, but you need a bit of dynamism. You need some new creation. Yes.
Yes, yes. Okay. So you saw the the idea of going on to a talk show like the Lotus Eaters as another opportunity. What was the draw for you on that? Why did you want to get up in front of a whole load of people and talk about this rather than focus on, even with little success, on these small dynamic businesses?
Well, I do feel that everyone is entitled to my opinion. That's a firm belief that I've always held. And if you are drawn to debates and discussions, I mean, I am always. I mean, I'll give you an example. I had a health test the other day because I thought, well,
Yeah.
I'm getting to the age where I need to have a health test,
Hmm.
and it all came back good. They do your bloods and a whole bunch of other things, and it all came back good with the exception of my stress level, which were apparently off the bloody charts. I mean, cortisol and whatever else it was, and I
Goodness.
was
Yeah.
looking at that thinking, well, hang on, but I'm not stressing about anything. I love my life. I'm perfectly happy. Why are the stress levels so high? And I worked it through, it's almost only because I just never ever unwind. I mean, I'm always active on things. I'm always reading or listening to a podcast or engaging with ChatGPT to narrow down or something, or going on Twitter. Um, and there's just I never have a moment where I just sort of sit down and don't do anything. I can't not do anything. It has to be constant
Yeah.
engagement, constant
Yeah.
learning, constant arguing. But my mind doesn't really have an off switch.
Yes.
And when I tried to get to sleep, it was um, replaying every discussion, trying to find improvements, thinking through ideas, itineraries for the next day. Just the mind never ever turned off, and it was quite difficult to get to sleep and so on. And so I've had to start taking a whole bunch of supplements and trying to stay off screens the last half hour before bed and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, constant need for intellectual engagement. And as a result, if you've spent 40 years like that, um, you tend to get quite good at it. You tend to get good at quite whatever you practice.
Yeah.
And I would just find that I'm probably in the upper few percent when it comes to being able to make an argument or pitch a case or something.
Yes.
And I believe that the things that I'm arguing and talking about need to be said and need to be heard. And especially and the other thing is, when you're a little kid, you look up at people who are in power, and you just think, oh, I bet they know what they're doing. And actually, I started to realise, increasingly so, and am now utterly convinced of it, that I could do a better job than any Labour politician,
Hmm.
easily, and probably all the Tory ones as well. I look at Angela, was it? What's the
Amen.
Rachel Reeves,
Reeves. Yeah.
Chancellor,
Yeah.
and I just know that I could do a significantly better job than her.
Hmm.
Now, I'm not suitable for politics anymore because I do speak too freely. No political party would have me. Um, but I do at least need to be calling out and permeating better ideas and dissecting and explaining why they're going wrong and what the right track is. So even if it's not me doing the power thing, it doesn't really matter as long as I can provide ammunition and level up and provide XP to a whole bunch of young people, so that when they end up in that situation, they're them. Because you got to remember, when I was coming up, there was, well, the internet was just beginning to become a thing.
Yes.
But you basically just got the left wing dogmas of the BBC and whoever your lecturer at university was, and it was very. I mean, you could find them, but it was very difficult to find better ideas. So I think it's important for me to equip as many people as possible with the toolkit to do a good job, so that they can do a good job.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Mm.
Another question. What qualities in other people do you admire but do not have yourself?
I kind of wish I got this one in advance so I could think about it. What do I admire? I'm not a great details chap.
No, that makes sense,
So
by the way.
yes, people who are very good at sort of details. I mean, I like that. People who are a little bit better about not rising to the challenge and effortlessly brushing off obviously silly things. Although I'm better than most of my sort of peer group. A lot of people get into stupid Twitter debates with people.
Yes.
I'm reasonably good at just ignoring it or just giving a very short, sort of piss off answer. So there is that. I don't know. This might be another red flag, but I'm struggling to properly answer that one.
That's okay.
Yes. I suppose I should be more active. Maybe I should. Maybe if I could get a little bit of that thing where people want to get up and go for a run at 7 a.m. Maybe I could have a bit of that. A bit better at details, and a bit better at switching off. Yes, that'd be nice.
Have you ever been to a spa?
What those places where they put mud on your face and stuff?
Yes. I mean, you just sort of switch off for a day.
Um, I think I went with the wife once to some place for an afternoon like that. Vaguely recall.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'd never have the impulse to go back to something like that. No.
Fair
I
enough.
did have an ayahuasca trip. I mean, that's probably the closest.
Oh, yes.
I've been off into the jungle a couple of
Yep.
times, where a shaman's there, and you drink the ayahuasca, and then shit happens. And that was fascinating. That was really interesting. Visions and all the rest of it. Although I can't help but come away with the impression that you get a whole range of profound thoughts.
Yes.
It's quite eye-opening. But looking back and analysing it, I'm thinking, yeah, but maybe it just activates the bit of your brain that says this is profound.
Yes.
And then you're looking at a piece of wood, and your brain, the chemical is, oh, this is profound. No, it's actually just a piece of wood. But the receptor in your brain that says this is profound has been triggered. Exactly. So it could be that. I don't know. Enjoy the experience, but that's probably the closest I've come to properly doing a spa thing. It was interesting, but no particular desire to go back.
Fair enough. Now, in your personal life, Dan, do you have many friends?
Not really. No, I've got a couple of mates from school that I still stay in touch with. I mean, I saw them last week, I think. As we get older, we see each other less frequently. So I've got a couple of old friends there. From work, I've got a couple of other friends. I actually haven't spoken to them for probably 18 months now. Should organise beers at some point. So I've got a few that I could get in touch with about things, but obviously being a man, we never discuss our feelings anyway, so it's not really an issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but so yes, I've got a couple of good friends, and I could probably expand it out another 4 or 5 if, but they would be quite secondary and people that I don't speak to regularly.
Sure. What makes someone that close friend, that close mate that you would choose to hang out with over anyone else?
The fact that I knew them when neuroplasticity was still high, I know them from school.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
Familiarity.
There's a few other characters
Mm.
who I've known once I was already older, and yes, they're good mates, and I could WhatsApp them and chat and all that kind of stuff, and would happily hang out. But no, I just think it's the thing that men do. You make 2 or 3 friends when you're 17, and then you just stick with them for the rest of your life.
Mm.
I guess a lot of men do that.
Yeah. Okay. How do you, upon meeting someone, get a sense of how close you'd actually want to be to them?
I don't know. I mean, there is a mechanism, but I've not really thought it through. But the sort of sense of demeanour and how they carry themselves and how they interact, how sort of thoughtful they are, whether they listen, whether they say something that matters,
Mm.
or I don't know. I've not really thought about that. But there are these people you meet and you just it's not that you just dislike them. You just don't. I don't see what's there.
Mm.
Not I don't get that connection. So I mean um especially if I attend an event, for example, um, lots of people come up and say hi.
Mm.
And you did that at a recent event, and I don't know what it was, but I was talking to you for a couple of minutes and I thought, yes, I like this chap. This is a good chap.
Thank
I
you.
want to talk to this chap.
Mm.
But I don't know what it was. So maybe I need to think about that. I'll think about that on the drive home. What that mechanism actually is.
Mm. Fair enough. Thank you. I guess another question I have is in regards to how you make sense of the world. Is that something which is based around a certain structure, a collection of principles, or is it purely pragmatic, whatever works?
Hmm. Are you asking me if I'm ideological?
Yeah.
So where I'm at now is that what works are the same thing that worked for thousands of years in human history that I was taught my entire youth to reject.
Mm.
So things like patriarchy and nationalism
Mm.
and family.
Mm.
All of those things that we were told, these are a bit suspicious, and you're subtly weaned off them at school and through media and stuff like that. More than anything, I think, yes, actually, no, our ancestors had it right for a very, very, very long time,
Mm.
and we have been undoing that. And you know, nothing against women, but they shouldn't be trying to play the role of men.
Mm.
By all means have a job, but don't make that the primary focus in life. And I probably would have spoken out against that in my 20s or something because I've been so heavily inculcated by the message. But you go through life and you notice that lots of women go and have a baby and then they just don't want to go and work in the cubicle anymore. Um, you see enough elections play out and you realize, oh, maybe they shouldn't be voting either. And actually maybe a lot of men shouldn't be. It should be some sort of property qualification and all of these things that were considered outdated and of the past.
Mm.
But actually that shit works and it produces stable societies where people are safe
Mm-hmm.
and something can be built. So I guess I've arrived at the point where I'm becoming more and more reactionary because it bloody works.
Yeah. Thank you. And how often do you change your mind?
Hmm. As an investor, if you can't change your mind, it's very easy to go broke that
Yeah.
way. And there is this saying in the investor community, which is strong opinions weakly held.
Hmm.
Um, and that's a sort of survival mechanism. So I suppose I must, to an extent, when I can't think of any times I've had a really strong sort of political view and then thought, well, I mean, I tend to gravitate to things. Things tend to change by increments. 2 years ago, I'd have been very reform, for example.
Yeah.
And then I've seen the way that they behaved, and Nigel has conducted himself, and the messaging they put out,
Mm.
and I graduated away with that. And it tend. I mean, for example, at the last election, we were very pro-reform,
Hmm.
and I was doing the stream very much backing Nigel. But there were all these creeping doubts building up. And then when he treated Rupert Lowe that way, it was a sort of breaking
Mm.
point, and I sort of
Yeah.
shifted on that. But actually, lately, I mean, in the last few weeks, their messaging has improved quite a lot, and I can feel myself starting to graduate back that way.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
so I do change my mind, but there tends to be a lot of sand piling up against one side of the wall before I just think, oh, hang on, I've got to keep an eye on this. I
Yes.
do change my mind, but it's not. I'm not a flip flopper, certainly.
And when you change your mind, does that require them piecing everything that you thought of back together again? Or is it more, well, it's just case by
No,
case?
no, 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 no. It's like the process I described, where um, I think, okay, it's A,
Yeah.
and then I increasingly see things and maybe think, well, yeah, but A doesn't look so good there, and B actually has some arguments there, and it's the pile of, I don't know. This is going to be a very poor analogy, but somebody's built a fence in the Sahara,
Yeah.
and the sand is starting to pile up on one side. And yes, there'll normally be one extra thing, one extra, air gust of sand against it, where the thing just does collapse. But I'm very aware that the sand is building up on one side, and I'm increasingly going, yes, not sure about that. Yes, I'm not
Yeah.
really comfortable with that. So it's no great surprise when I do change my mind.
Mm.
Um, but yes, it does
It's a,
happen.
sounds like it's more of a gradual sifting thing where on the
Mm.
balance you take that view rather than that view. And it's
Yeah, so, I,
less
so
less structural.
so when I flipped on reform, for example,
Yeah.
I'd been very publicly pro them, and then things started building up, and I just thought, yeah, I'm just not going to say anything.
Yeah.
I'm just going to hold off on this until it goes the other way, and then it's right. And then I'm out and calling Roger Snake and all the rest of it, and so on.
Mm. Are you a very private person?
What does that mean?
As in public interactions, purely professional, and really where you put your meaning in life are to things which aren't anyone else's business?
No, not really.
Mm.
No, no, I don't think so. I don't. When I got family, and I don't involve them in
Yeah.
politics. I don't want to be involved in politics. I mean,
No?
most of them are little kids.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
um, but no, I don't consider myself as having something which is. I mean, I suppose it is walled off to an extent, in that it's just not the same thing.
Mm.
Um, but no, that I see more as a bedrock, not as a you know. Yes,
Mm.
I think I get my meaning from my intellectual pursuits.
Yes. Yes.
Mm,
And I guess a key thing there, you said that everyone is entitled to your opinion.
mm.
Is there meaning to you in being a figure in the public sphere? Does it matter that you are seen in that?
Um, I mean, I'm not sure, because because I am, and therefore it.
Hmm.
But I mean, let's say, for example, I was like a Morgoth, for example, or a Zuma historian or whatever, who was doing this all. Well, they all get doxxed eventually, but
Yeah.
if I was just doing this behind an avatar, do you mean?
Well, that's what Carl did for the first, I think, few years. He was just
Yes.
I could see he was very kind of very much private and putting his ideas out there without putting his face on there.
Well, I did do that for a long time.
Mm.
For example, when I had Twitter, but I was working in finance, you can't really be seen to be doing it because then it gets
Yes.
associated with the firm.
Yeah.
So actually, I suppose I probably spent more time doing that as an anon when not. But once I'd taken the view, no, this is what I'm going to do. It didn't really occur to me to not just do it openly
Right. Right. And that
because
felt that felt natural.
yes, and I know a lot of people can't because of their work or whatever it is. They kind of have to keep a lid on that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
um, I've kind of become more afraid of not speaking out rather than speaking out. And every so often, the wife does get a bit worried. She says, "Oh, you're
Yep.
not going to get
Yep.
arrested," and I have to reassure her, "Oh, well, probably will be." But I'm just not that intimidated by that
Yeah.
process
Yeah.
because I,
Fair
I
enough.
know I know what I've got to say is right. And if you and I'll just sit there in front of the police and just say, "Well, look, if the CPS want to make the recommendation that this goes to court, I'll argue it in court."
Yeah.
Off you go then.
Yeah. Okay. So let's dive now into humor. I
Mm,
remember you said that you have quite a jocular style. So
can on
what
occasions, yes.
makes you want to make things jocular?
I suppose you have more fun that way,
Hmm.
and also humor can be effective. So for example, I do these sort of long talks on finance and economics, you know, on Brokenomics, where I wattle on about government spending and taxation for like an hour. Who the hell is going to watch that if it's if it's just delivered straight? I remembered when I was in finance, um, every year we'd have to get money laundering training, right? And you think that would be the highlight of the year. How can you make money laundering boring? And yet somehow these training courses that we had to go on annually were by far the most boring, and people would literally be falling asleep in the room. It was
Hmm.
so dry and boring. If you're going to communicate effectively, there's a whole bunch of things that you need to do. Not waste people's time, be direct, look clearly at them. There's
Yep.
a tone of voice, there's a whole bunch of things you can do. And humor is highly effective at getting a message across because it's like, well, it also helps that I'm extremely good looking because it makes it just an easier experience
Hmm.
for the person to watch and listen if you if
Yeah.
you're if you're very easy on the eye and also on occasions slightly humorous.
So for you, it's purely a function of communication.
Well, and also it's just funnier for me if I can
Why?
make jokes where I'm going.
Why do you like to make jokes? What is it there that you think I enjoy doing this?
Well, because it'd be more boring if I didn't.
Right.
Um,
Are you
the
someone
wife and
who,
kids, the wife and kids pick
yeah,
up on that a lot as well.
yeah,
Um, the amount of times my 7-year-old will turn around to me and say, "Daddy, you're so silly," and I say, "Yes, but I'm funny." She's laughing, so it's all right.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
May I ask you what makes your relationship with your wife work?
Assuming that she's not going to watch this, I'm going to go with low expectations because that is the kind of that is the secret to making all relationship works. I believe it's as long as you can have nice low expectations, you can get it done. She said to me a while ago, I've just given up on trying to make you clean the house or something, or do various bits because you're just not going to do it. I've just made peace with it. You do the things that you do, and I do the things that I do, and it all sort of works. As a man, it's quite straightforward. As long as I get respect, I'm kind of good shouldering whatever burden needs to be shouldered. I won't tolerate disrespect.
Yeah.
From the missus, and whenever that has cropped up, it's not a tactic or anything. I don't think, oh no, that I just viscerally, I can't stand it. It's like, no, I won't have that. I won't have that in my bloody house, woman. Stop that at once. She needs love and security. So I'll provide love and security. And as long as I get respect and appreciation, we're kind of in our natural fit. And it works.
Yeah. Appreciation is, I think, quite straightforward. Respect is a complicated word. Can you tell me more about what respect means for you?
Again, a question I've never really thought about. I don't know. You kind of know it when you see it. You know disrespect when you see it.
Well, do we know?
I don't know why.
See it? Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. You just kind of know. I don't. Yeah. Good question.
It's something. It sounds to me like it's something that makes you feel something.
Yes, I suppose it is. But I've never thought about this before, and I'm going to have to, because I don't really know. Yeah, sorry, I haven't got a good answer for you there.
That's all right. I find it interesting that you are a highly curious person who thinks about many things. It sounds to me when you get into the psychological, that's where you haven't done as much for, to say, the economic and the political.
No. There are many things to think about.
Yeah.
And if you think about them properly, you have to start from the assumption that if you don't know a thing, you don't bloody know a thing. And there's quite a broad open canvas in front of you. So if you come to something and you've not done thinking on it, you need to start putting some scaffolding up before you can build a thought palace there. So I'm quite good at when I realise that I've come up against something that I just don't actually know. Rather than gravitate to some cliche, it's better to actually spend the time and think about it. And if I haven't, there's no point latching onto something.
Fair enough. It's interesting the words you use there, the scaffolding to build a thought palace. Could you tell me a bit more about that? Because that sounds a bit more like your intellectual process.
So most people do not think, and I'm convinced a lot of them can actually go through their entire life without having an original thought. It's the Game of Thrones. It is known. Why do you think that? It's known. And a lot of people do think in cliches or something they heard on the news, and I definitely did that for a long time because as a young person you got nothing else. And so you tend to absorb by osmosis all these things around you. And so many times it's turned out something that I thought I knew was complete and utter bullshit.
Yeah.
That's not how the world works at all. Or that thing simply isn't true. So if you're going to construct a framework in your own mind of how things work, you do need to go and build it first. And clearly defining the question. What actually is the question? What are the terms implicit? What are the assumptions implicit in the question? And then I don't know, just start looking at it until stuff starts to fall together. Build the scaffolding, as in find the facts. Because construct whatever it is, the terms that you're discussing this in, see some examples, see what other people have said about it, and it all sort of falls in place once you start looking at something. But
Right.
um,
Right.
but you don't want to go in with whatever the received wisdom is, because you will almost certainly be wrong if you do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. I'm still drawn in the idea of disrespect. Are there any examples that come to mind where you knew that thing was disrespect? I don't have to pry into your personal life, but any other examples that come to mind?
Not really, no, because if they do crop up, I tend to just say something immediately. I'm not one of those person who lets something brew.
No.
Um, women can do that thing where they remember something that you said in an offhand comment 3 months ago
Yeah.
and bring it up at the key moment. I've never done that. If I waited that long, I would have forgotten long about it. Um,
What
so
what why
yes.
why don't you let why don't you let what people have said affect your attitude towards them?
Well, I suppose in some cases I must have done. There must have been people who said things, and that kind of pissed me off, and decided don't like that chap anymore. Um, but generally, because I'm inclined to not hold back, and I'm not risk averse, and I'm not confrontation averse, there's kind of no real need with my psyche in order to let things brew. I can just address it immediately.
Yeah.
So when you're in that mindset, there doesn't seem to be a lot of baggage.
Hmm. What do you are there any people that you actually dislike as people?
I get the sense of some people that there are people that they're all knotted up inside about.
Hmm.
Um, the classic example being the Trump derangement syndrome.
Yes.
And leftists tend to have this a lot. They seem to get it in their gut that this person is wrong and they don't like them, and it kind of eats at them constantly. The need to say that and so on. Um, not not really, because everybody tends to be. There was a route that got them. Even if they have completely bonkers views, or even if they're a very nasty criminal who's done horrible thing, um, there was something that got them there, some balance. I mean, it's very difficult to put yourself in their mind. I mean, you don't even know what they're, because I'm very aware that I am the way I am due to a complicated mesh of having been built this way, neurological architecture, experiences. I mean, a whole bunch of different things. And if I just had a fundamentally different neurochemical structure and upbringing, and different hormone balance and different intelligence level, and all of these things, um, people are the way they are. So it's difficult when you break it down like that to kind of truly feel hate for someone, even people
Yeah.
who've done really awful things.
Yeah.
A person who expressed this best for me was Daryl Cooper when he was talking about Erde Hussein, who
Mm.
was a complete psycho and
Mm.
very, very bad man. Used to feed people to lions and stuff like that. So, he's not a good chap, not a good egg.
Yeah.
Um, but when he was like 7 and 8, his dad, Saddam Hussein, took him to watch people being tortured to death to toughen him up. Um, there is a reason why he turned out the way he did.
Yeah.
And when I kind of look at that, it's not so much hate; it's more that accept it how it is and bring order to it.
Mm.
So if there are people that are, you know, find themselves being perverts to little kids, um, I mean, yes, in the instance you hate, but actually the more important thing to do is to remove them from society as swiftly as possible.
Yeah.
If somebody is a murderer, yes, hate them for that, but actually the more important thing to do is not to become overcome with emotion.
Mm,
It's to clearly identify what's going on here. How has this happened?
yeah.
What is deficit in our society that has allowed this to persist? And how do we correct it as sharply and efficiently as we can?
Yes.
So I tend to move straight on to what do we do about it? Because if you focus on what can you do about it, well, you can have an actual outcome rather
Hmm.
than just brewing in hate for a week or whatever.
Hmm. Well, Dan, it's been a pleasure to get to know you better. And I think I have an idea of what personality structure would make the most sense for you. So
Oh yes,
I
is it
think,
Dark Triad?
no, no, I
Oh,
don't think
good,
it's Dark
good.
Triad.
Have
It's
I avoided all the major red flags, or no? Actually, no, you tell me.
every personality comes with a potential for red flags.
Right.
Every personality has its own traps, the things they can get caught up in if they're not aware of, areas of hubris, areas where they also find themselves becoming something that they're not because of the external pressures of the world and
That is
society.
interesting. What am I not aware of?
Well, every type has a blind spot, and the blind spot for you would be those personal attitudes, reading character, and that set sense of that person is a bad person. I do not like that person. This person I do like and I want to keep very close because of their character. And an awareness of that and the sincerity towards those personal attitudes as opposed to what moods and emotions can affect the environment, to make it more interesting, to make it more colorful, to make it
How is
more
that a blind
enjoyable.
spot? Talk me through that.
Okay, so when it comes to that blind spot, awareness of why you feel the way you feel towards X, Y, and Z. It was difficult for you to find answers to those sorts of questions in the interview.
Right.
Well, I
Right.
asked you, why do you admire something that you don't have yourself? It's immediately it forces you to think. It's not just liking what I do. It's liking something which someone else does, which I do not have, and appreciating that in the other person, which is also a
Hmm.
key aspect of relationships, um, and the keeping of the stability of said relationships. Now, when I asked you about your relationships, it was a sense of, well, these people are around when I had that greater neuroplasticity. And I've fallen into the regularity of being with them. It wasn't character assessment. And I dived deeper. I looked into, who do you
Yes, but they would
really
have peeled.
like?
They would have peeled off if not compatible. I would have
Yes,
thought.
if the engagement was not comfortable, I mean, not
Hmm.
pleasant, it would have peeled off. But it's more about the ambiance of being around them. And I think a key thing is what you said about also a very important aspect of your relationship with your wife, that lower expectations. Rather
Hmm.
than holding you to account based on your character and the expectations of you being the person in line with your good character, it's more someone who provides a sense of peace and stability and harmony in your home life environment.
Yes,
And
that's a good way of putting it. I'm going to
yeah,
steal that.
yeah, that's very important for understanding what your needs are. It is about someone who doesn't put pressure. You wade in the public
Hmm.
atmosphere into environments of pressure because for you it's not that um, you like necessarily pressure for the sake of pressure, but more wherever possibilities lie, there will be greater risk. And you being ready to take that on and saying yes to the possibilities of the world rather than no, I can't cope. That is a
Hmm.
key aspect of what drives you. But to balance that out, having someone who can take away that external pressure, that at home it's not the rat race, at home it's not another war, it is an environment of peace and acceptance and tolerance and softness is very, very valuable.
Yeah, that is good. That is good. I
Mm.
like that. Yes.
So I say every type has that sort of blind spot. I was asking you about, who you hate, who you dislike. You went towards the determinism view, which is people are wired different ways, and you've got to accept people for how they are. And if they can't function in society, they'll just damage things or kill people. We've got to
Hmm.
remove them from the ecosystem. but it's nothing
Yes.
personal. It's just business, as it were. It's just society. And it's that sense that at each point, the personal attitude is moved around. It's something else is gone towards. This is a blind spot which is shared by a number of people in the political space. I can point to Boris Johnson. I can point to Donald Trump. I can point to Silvio Berlusconi, Boris Yeltsin. There is a tendency for these types to, instead of focusing on those very deeply fixed personal attitudes, instead they engage with the world through their humor, through their ability to lighten up the emotional atmosphere, to get people to feel things. And the idea is not about the attitude, it's about the emotional energy in that moment. When there's a fight, when there's a disagreement, you felt disrespected, you feel the emotions in the moment, you get it off your chest, you talk it through, and then it's like it never happened because the attitudes don't remain. The matter was resolved, and then that's how it is. And it's sort of dealt with quite quickly out in the open. The expression is the important part there. The the idea is that this is also an area of hubris for this type. They start off being very confident and secure in terms of their factual knowledge, how things work, and how to utilize that knowledge to accomplish things practically, effectively, to solve problems, to come up with solutions. They're very loose and easy with that. They can almost take it for granted. When you see new possibilities, you almost intrinsically know you have the skill set to be able to do it, to become a very good talk show host, to become very good at getting businesses to run well on a small scale. But the idea is that sort of the low stakes, low reward zone, being factually competent, knowing how things work and doing things as effectively as possible, it doesn't bring necessarily the same thrill and joy of being on the edge of a socio-political environment, of saying something to elicit a reaction. And will that reaction blow up? Or will it be a positive response because you said something that's gotten everyone to think that's absolutely amazing insight? And that sort of that emotional feedback from people is the area of thrill and a sense of, yes, I'm doing this thing. And then sometimes that can blow up. Sometimes the jocular humor can go too far. You can unintentionally run roughshod over those very deeply held personal sensitivities. And then there's a sense of, oh my goodness, I failed here. I've looked like in this very sort of negative way that's not on my own terms. And it's
Yes,
okay.
I used to live in Islington, and every
Yeah.
so often I'd say something, and the room would go very, very quiet.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And the defensive fallback is to go back to your knowledge, go back to the mental palace. Because what you know and understand factually, without any kind of what do people think of it, it's safe. It's less thrilling, but it's safe. And then
Mm.
eventually you can move back into that more interpersonal group environment, how people react territory. And you'll be more refined the next time. It'll be longer before there'll be the slip up again.
Well, I don't really mind if people don't like me.
No, it's not
I'm
about
fine with that.
it's not about people. It's not about everyone liking you. It's about being on your terms. When people you have shaped your life by being courageous, by
Right.
saying what's on your mind. So you know already these people are not going to like you. You know that the Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmers and the Rainbow Tribes are not going to
Mm.
like you. You're not going to bother. But when it comes to saying your opinions of expertise in a social environment where there are people, where there are other tribes, you could say, people who are independently minded, people who are inclined to see that the world at the moment is not working, that there are historical and traditional wisdoms that have been lost, to get that and that positive feedback from them. There's a reward there.
Okay, so I grew up in the Normie tribe, and I've been through a sorting process to find a new tribe,
Mm,
and I suppose that tribe does matter to me.
mm.
Right. That's interesting.
It basically we have a there's a configuration of where we're either motivated by the close, deeply held one-to-one relationship, and everyone else can F off, basically.
Yes.
Or It's a sense of finding our own circle of belonging and finding the right circle of belonging. Struggling to find
Hmm.
it early on because people just did not get what you had to say, because your opinions diverged, because you thought more freely, you thought more outside the box. And then it's that journey of finding those circles that actually do appreciate what you can bring. And the sort of the closing of the circle is when you, being someone who goes off into the wilderness, finds the new ideas, the new perspectives, and brings them back to society, has that environment of, as you said, low expectation, as an environment of peace, stability, harmony, that and acceptance of who you are, who then benefits and shows that feeling of benefit from the ideas and insights you've been able to bring.
Okay. Yeah. Is that all of it? Is that
There are bits and pieces as well. So I said about the idea of ideas and possibilities. You have a focus on what is possible as opposed to what is actual. The concrete physical environment, yeah, no matter how intense it gets, you'll kind of adapt to that. You'll be in a fight situation. You'll still be there. You won't find this is too much. I need to move out of that situation. You almost need other people to create environments of safety around you because you can wear yourself out. But when it comes to, it's also why the day-to-day details, you need someone to outsource that too, really, to keep things well maintained, keep things harmonious, because you're out exploring and bringing new things in. That inevitably brings an aspect of chaos to the order. But the key thing is that when your approach to chaos is one where it is a positive, it's a yes, not a no. It's almost a stubbornness in terms of, if this thing is possible, I need to be able to explore that possibility. I need to be able to say yes to the ambiguity of existence and not a no. Other people have a default no. You have to, they'll say yes as an exception to the rule. For you, it's almost the no is the exception. So, taking in new things, saying yes to things, and taking that key philosophy from your experience, where you were told to climb over that wall and you thought you couldn't, but actually you could. It had a profound effect on you because it was an affirmation of, when you say yes to possibilities, they
mm,
actually become possible and they can actually become actual. And
mm,
it's that mindset which is sort of a driving mindset for your life. When you started off very, very young, I think, in that intellectual zone of experimenting, of being curious in different things, of pushing boundaries. Over time, you would have built, and then also that ability to quickly take in that factual knowledge would have helped you to know what you're doing in exploring those possibilities. Then it would have been as you became more confident, growing into the playing with the emotional reactions, the jocular humor, the eliciting reactions. Sometimes it blows up, sometimes it doesn't. When it doesn't, it gets better, and you get more and more confident. But then also that sense of, you need from someone else the maintaining of the harmony, the details coming together to create an environment of restfulness, of peacefulness, of stability. And then always that sort of blind spot in the personal attitudes, which you need someone else to sort of sort out without drawing too much attention to it. When things don't get too personal, when things don't get too personally judgmental. And for you, it's about, be direct, handle things, so rather than sort of let them fester, but don't make it a personal, very sort of a personally aggressive environment. It has to be aggressive. It's the cut and thrust of intellectual discourse. And so someone who can handle that more personal side without you having to think about it is also valuable.
right. What is my biggest flaw?
Every type has areas of weakness. I said that the flaws are in regard to managing and maintaining the day-to-day details. It's when, in that desire to be jocular, what hurts is when you've made people who you might like and enjoy the company of uncomfortable, and you've made your environment uncomfortable, and people no longer feel they can be in that exploratory space because of something you may have said. And
Hmm.
that's where the pain's felt, when that blows up, when you've unintentionally made people feel very uncomfortable in their environment, because you want people to enjoy. They want people to enjoy this intellectual space. You want people to be able to stay open and keep exploring, because once people are upset in a sort of uncomfortable way, they're no longer exploring with you. And then suddenly the possibilities shut down around you when you want them to be open. So
Right.
a flaw is reading those, I can't quite say undercurrents, but those micro expressions which tell you about the level of tension and flow in your immediate atmosphere. And I think the blind spot, which can feed into that, is people's personal attitudes and tensions. What do they hate? What do they love? What are their personal attitudes which aren't held so clearly and consciously for you that you could unintentionally stumble over? Um, there are, of course, the clear strengths, the ability to thrive in an intellectually ambiguous and complex space, to very quickly get across the facts of that, and the ability to then offer new insights and possibilities in order to push that envelope. It's a very clear social role that is innovative and dynamic. But then again, there's that other side. It's having people around you who can handle that less spoken but more felt space of personal sensitivity that will help keep that running in a sustainable fashion.
Okay. So does this, as you've been doing your evaluation, does this type have a name?
Yes, we call it the inventor.
Right.
Um,
I've never invented anything.
no, it's not necessarily about inventing something which is, let's say, a vacuum cleaner or anything like that, but the idea of coming up with ideas outside of what is familiar, to bring in those new ideas and then have society react, hopefully, in a positive way to those ideas because they work and they make sense and they give a fresh perspective. Um, it's bringing in the new. It's bringing it's refusing to narrow possibilities based on fear, based on a lack of self-belief, and instead it's about broadening those horizons for everyone to then
Who
benefit.
are some high profile inventors that I might know of?
Albert Einstein is an example of this. His ability, in his case, his genius was his ability to make profound contributions in multiple fields, almost all at once. It's a breadth-oriented approach rather than depth-oriented. So going broad, finding different areas of interest and making contributions.
What about people alive today?
Boris Johnson is another one.
Oh God.
Now he's an
Oh,
example
that is
where
worrying.
I know. Boris Johnson is an example of someone who fell into that environment where he had popularity, and it was very much on his terms, and creating this sort of unconventional um, persona that brought a great
Yes.
deal of positive reward. But then finding himself in the switch to COVID, suddenly having to do everything he didn't actually believe in, because
Yes.
otherwise there was a
Well, the man's
great
a total shit. He locked us
basically,
down and
yeah,
imported millions and millions of third world invaders. I
yes.
don't want to be a Boris Johnson.
No, people vary greatly in their political views, despite being the same sorts of types.
Oh, I
The
see.
the underlying infrastructure can be the same, but based on one's environment, it's very different. Boris was never really a true conservative. He did, I think, believe in the principles of freedom. I think he was a sort of classical liberal in that respect, but then
Mm.
he betrayed himself because of that, having built an having built a profile of positive of being positively received.
Yeah.
His neurosis was that he's going to lose that by essentially consigning all the old people to die with COVID coming in, and so he then
Uh,
went he bent towards other people's advice, which was catastrophic, and it's
he
why
was
I've got
weak.
respect for him. Yes, he
Yes,
showed a
he was
weakness in
weak.
that moment. He did.
And for our American viewers, any prominent
Bill
Americans who fall
Maher.
into? God, this gets worse.
Well, Bill Maher's also someone who was Democrat voting, but then changed his mind in terms of many things. He still has the Trump derangement syndrome, but he is someone who also creates a very open space of exploration, who says things which are, out of the box, risks offending people, but likes
Mm.
being on that edge of saying things which are both humorous and jocular, but get also a deeper point across. Unfortunately, this
Right.
type is not one that's so common on the right. The reason
Okay.
being that the idea of bringing ideas which have a positive benefit to the tribe, leans towards a certain tendency of collective belonging. And this is the type which is
Well,
comp.
that's patriarchy and tribe and
Yes,
nationalism.
yes. It's and the problem is we have in the moment is that we're at a turning point where we are rediscovering what collectivism means on the right,
Yes, but
where
the
we
good kind.
the good kind, exactly. So far,
So I am a man who is needed in this moment. Step forth. They
very
have done
much,
so.
very much.
Yes.
This is a type which oversees transformations in society. They are they are on that edge between again the order and the chaos. There's a pedagogical quality to them, and for them in the realm of the ideas, and it's building up those ideas for other people later could maybe implement them.
So
Um,
what is the sort of role that my personality type is meant to fulfill in a society? Is it a general or a judge or
no,
I don't know, a high
not a
priest
judge.
or what is it?
Definitely not a judge, and I wouldn't say a high priest because they're not purely ideological either. They tread the line between ideology and pragmatism. They have a philosophy, they have a sense of how things fit together and make sense, but they also keep mind to how things play out in the world. They have a very fluid thinking style, which actually gives them a great deal of, well, versatility in the intellectual space. The key thing is that they bring the ideas. They are very stubborn on the idea that we must open up new ideas and possibilities. We mustn't say no to these possibilities. And so, in doing that, they bring new ideas to the foreground. They open up new avenues and get people talking about things that they would never have talked about before.
So what is the classic role of this person then?
Classic role is, I say, is being someone ideally in the public view who introduces new ideas, gets people thinking about new ideas, and almost as a catalyst for future change.
Right. Okay. Yes. Yeah.
And what they need in life is someone who plays the nurturer role, someone who creates that stable space as a bedrock for them.
Right. Oh, the wife can do that.
Exactly.
Yes.
Every type needs a natural complement, someone that balances out their weaker points. It's the idea that you want someone as different to you as possible in your strengths, but as similar to you as possible in terms of your values. And by values in this case, it's about keeping it rather light-hearted. It's about being emotionally expressive. It's about things making sense and not just being case by case, pure pragmatism, and a sense of being open to changing your mind, to seeing the world in different forms, to not being stubborn over only a certain few things being possible, not being closed.
So I thought personality types were supposed to have those four letters.
Yeah,
Or
they
do I
do
not
have
get
the
the
four.
four?
I can give you four letters. ENTP.
Right. Okay. I don't
Uh,
actually know what the four letters mean, but
they they
I'll
they
look it up.
actually they actually matter very little because what they do is they give you just four things, four words.
Right.
What is more important, what goes on under the surface,
Yes.
why people do what they do. And the idea that you're driven by a desire to open up new possibilities, to elicit positive reactions about those possibilities, and that you have a real horsepower in understanding how those ideas fit together, make sense, and collecting the practical how-tos from those ideas. That forms the meat of the personality. And then I've
Hmm.
talked about the weaker points, the areas of hubris, the traps you could also fall into.
So am I supposed to write a book or something?
You can if you want. I mean, it depends on what medium you choose. We're in an environment
Yes.
where people don't necessarily just write a book anymore. They can for the
Right.
prestige, but we've got
Okay.
podcasts, we've got videos,
Yes. So I'm doing it through podcasts, but in ages past, I should have been the guy writing a treatise
but not just
or
one.
maybe being on the Senate floor and advocating something and trying to get a faction behind me, that sort of thing.
Yes. Well, you got Cicero, you got David Hume, you got Benjamin Franklin. Other
Right.
examples of this type. The key thing really for these types is breadth. They don't just write one book. They write treatises on multiple things because for them they'll get bored if they focus on just one thing. They are
Yes, I
fundamentally
do that.
oriented.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So was the first name Cicero?
Cicero.
Who's that?
Cicero, but Cicero is the Latin pronunciation.
Right, okay. Fine.
And of course, in his case, because he didn't really know how to back down from the fight, he lost his head.
Well, yes, there is that. Yeah.
Self-preservation's not a strength for this type
No.
because they are not risk averse. They are
No.
risk attracted.
Yes.
They have this firm, but they know. The thing is, they know intrinsically how things will likely play out. They're not blind to the future. They know intuitively, but they
Can't
still
help it
push
anyway.
that. But they still push that red button.
Right.
They can't help
Yes.
themselves. It's knowing and still doing it and still risking losing their heads. I did the same thing when I stepped into the political arena and lost my job.
Yes.
That is a drive for this type. They do bring risk and chaos in doing that, but they also have that intrinsic belief in their ability to get across the complexities of the facts to, I wouldn't say reinvent themselves, but adapt their skill sets to a broad range of new situations.
This has all been jolly interesting. I'm going to have to do a lot of thinking after this.
It's been a pleasure, Dan. And yeah, say anyone who's watching, if they'd also like to have their personality analyzed to dive in deeper, more than happy for people to email me at jack@worldsocionics.org, where I can happily do such an interview. Personally, I'd love to be able to interview all the Lotus Eaters and get to know them better.
I'll have a word. I don't know if any of them are as interesting as me, but I mean, I'll pass it on, certainly.
Each one's interesting in their own way. But
oh, yeah, I'm sure, yes. Yeah.
And yeah, for people who are watching on my channel, please go and check out the Lotus Eaters. The website's lotuseaters.com. Is that right, Dan?
That's the one. That's the one. And if we end up sticking this up on our side as well, how do they find you?
Well, you can find me by going to worldsocionics.org. That is where you can book one of these interviews. I also do coaching. I've even done relationship counseling. I was able to save a marriage
YouTube,
once.
haven't you?
I do a YouTube. The World Socionics Society on YouTube. And I have many such interviews like this where I just get to know people, understand what drives them, why they do what they do.
Yes. Well, Jack, this has been extremely fascinating, and not just because we're talking about me, although that was an element of it. Thank you very much for the psyche Val.
You're very welcome. It's been a pleasure, Dan, and thank you everyone for tuning in. All the best.
Thank you.